Hello, dear sister. This reading is going to talk about recovering from a traumatic birth experience. And if this is something that you're viewing this reading for, then I just want to send you so much love and thanks. And the thanks will make sense in just a moment. But perhaps you're thinking about maybe having another baby, or maybe you're already pregnant, or just starting to think about the birth process again, and do you really want to go through that again? Well, I do hope that at the end of this reading you will find some comfort and empowerment, because the spirit babies have a lot to say about this. So firstly, when it comes to the birth experience you had, and this might not be easy to hear right away, so just bear with me. This is something that you and your baby and whoever was involved, your partner, chose to experience. Not on the human level, because on any human level we would never choose to experience hardship or crap. But on a spiritual level, as you were forming this life plan, you and your partner and your baby all got together and said, if we experience this, this is going to help us do this down the road. So there is a higher purpose and a higher meaning behind this birth experience. So first, you just have to realize this is something that is serving you and your purpose, as well as those around you, including your baby. Now, the thanks comes in because if you chose to experience a traumatic birth, then that means you are a bold and courageous high priestess. I mean, you kick ass to be able to be willing on some level to go through this experience. And the reason I thank you is because part of the role is you're being a catalyst for change here. You're being a catalyst for change. And on some levels, you're becoming this beautiful birth activist. So even just by clicking on the play button, you're making a difference. You're making a difference by changing the focus and saying, you know what, that's not the way it should have happened. And it wasn't my fault, and I'm not going to stand for this anymore. Just because you choose something does not mean it's your fault. So that is not placing blame or anything like that, but you are choosing to be a catalyst for change. And now that doesn't mean you have to go out and do anything activisty like. Just by being who you are and making the choices that you're making, you're a catalyst for change. So you are first a bold and courageous soul to have chosen to go through this. And for being a catalyst for change, that is where you deserve thanks. You deserve thanks. And before we go on, there's also an element of forgiveness that needs to happen here. And maybe knowing that this is something you chose to experience, you can start to perhaps look at the pieces around your birth experience that need to be forgiven, especially if you were feeling mad at your body for not being able to do what it's supposed to do. Forgive your body. Know that your body was carrying out your higher purpose here. And I'm getting chills right now as I say this, which indicates a highest truth. So your body didn't let you down. Your body was absolutely following the path that you had mapped out for yourself. So forgiveness of your body, for one thing, if that is something that resonates with you. And then also a forgiveness of anyone who might have been involved in making your birth traumatic. And this is usually staff that's involved, whether it's a midwife or a doctor or a nurse or whomever, the anesthesiologist. Chances are there needs to be some forgiveness around there. And again, feel the anger, especially if this is new, especially if your birth experience just happened recently. And by recently, it could be a year or 2 years or 3 months ago. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. And if what I'm saying pisses you off, then just, maybe you're still in a place of anger and you're not ready for it. But in a little while, maybe just view this part of the video again with an open heart and realize that the people that did you a disservice actually are very close spiritual friends of yours on the other side to agree to put you through such an experience. Um, and that's where the spirit baby realm really wants you to let go of the judgment around it and the anger around it, and just to know that everybody was playing their part exactly how it was scripted out. So think about that. And when you come to a place where you can think of the person who um, maybe contributed to the trauma, when you come to a place where you can look at them, not in your mind objectively, you don't have to ever communicate with them again on this realm if you don't need to, but an energetic exchange where if you can just think of this person and think, thank you. Thank you for carrying out this role that's helping my higher purpose. Then you know that true healing has occurred. True healing has occurred. So those are very important points to focus on, as the forgiveness around the whole thing, and knowing that you're a badass who is making changes because of this experience. And not only is it because, I'm sorry, my lawn mowing guys are here. I'm like, oh my God, is it going to get loud? But we'll just keep going. Not only is this not something you experience because you're weak or or wrong. It's something you experience because you're very, very, very strong and powerful. So again, thank you. Thank your body. Thank anyone who is involved in this. And know that this experience is now behind you. It's behind you now. Before I get to that point, though, I just want to touch upon your baby not being attached to the birth experience like we are. And I have to say that I think the natural birth community can do disservices to women as they try to empower us. They tell us, you can have a natural birth, you can have an empowered birth, you can have an orgasmic birth. And so all that is well and good, but I know through some of the books I read when I was preparing for my birth, it can make you into a birth judger, which means this kind of birth good, this kind of birth bad. To be perfectly honest, when I was researching home birth with my first child, all the books I read just said what was totally wrong about hospitals and what was happening to your baby if it was born under drugs and how could you do that. And you know what, it struck a chord in me. I'm like, oh my God, I have to be pure, I can't have my baby drugged, I can't do this, or everything's wrong. So I did have the births I wanted, but I also became a very strong birth judger. And it's not a good thing for anybody. It's saying the way I had it was right, and if you had a C-section, you were wrong. And if you had a transfer, it's because of something, that you weren't visualizing right, or it's just not good. It's just not good. So this is something we really, really need to address. The natural birth community is wonderful, wonderful up until a point. But if they're telling us that's the only way to have birth, then that needs to go away, because they're doing just as much a disservice as the doctors are in the hospital. So it's two sides of the same coin. What we need to focus on is not just hospital birth versus natural birth, or epidural versus drug-free. That's not it. What we need to focus on is empowered birth. And here they come. I'm just wondering if you're going to be able to hear this. I'm sorry. But empowered birth. And you know what? What changed me from being a birth judger was maybe a year or so after my first son was born. And I was collecting birth stories for my website, beautiful birth stories. And someone sent me an empowered cesarean section story. And I was crying. It changed me. It changed me. I'm like, oh my God, this woman was in a hospital surrounded by doctors, having a cesarean section, and it was a gorgeous, beautiful birth. So, that's something that is not talked about enough. You can have empowered C-sections. It's not the type of birth that's involved. It's not even who's surrounding you that's involved. It's what's inside you. And you know what? If you have a communication with you and your baby, you know what? That's all that matters. I think maybe one of the C-sections, and I've read many empowered C-section stories now, the mom kept talking to the baby through the whole thing, and it was bliss. It was bliss. So we need to let go of our ideals around birth, and that there's only one way to do it that's right, because that doesn't help anybody. It doesn't help anybody. For my third birth, when I was getting ready for my third birth, I was having tremendous migraines 24/7, and it made me tired all day long and screaming in pain all night long. And so I actually realized that I might have to have help. I've had 2 unassisted births before, but this time I might need help, and I might need to go to a hospital. So I actually went down that road and looked at it, and that was a very empowering experience for myself to think, okay, I can have the same experiences I had at home in a hospital. And again, not to beat that point, but it is important that we don't focus on natural or cesarean or drug-free or drug-induced. Our babies don't care. They don't care. And especially the babies coming in now, they're very self-possessed. They're very self-reliant. They have very strong vibrations. Things like the drugs are not going to affect them like perhaps maybe affected babies in the past. Maybe it did. I don't know. I can't say for sure. So just remember that our babies are not attached to the birth experience as we are. I know some of the other books will say, oh, if your baby has colic, it's because it's trying to get over a traumatic birth experience. Well, I had a natural birth, my third birth, and my baby still had colic. You never know what you're going to get, and the last thing you need is to put any more blame on your birth experience. So again, just put that aside. Forgive that. Forgive it all. Our babies are not attached to it. They know what they're getting into. They know what it serves us. And so all we need to do is focus on our own self-forgiveness, forgiveness around it, knowing we chose it because we're powerful, and that we're changing things. We're changing things. So all this to say is not only is it a possibility to have a different birth experience, it's a definite. If you're watching this reading, if you're having this reading right now, it's a definite. Your birth experience is going to be different. It's going to be very different. And even, I gotta say, even if you chose to go to the same place or had the same people do it, your experience is going to be very different now because you're different. You're different. In just the 13 minutes you've been watching this, you're different already. But anyway, we don't have to learn the same lessons twice. And so why would you go and have the same lesson again? You don't have to do that. Choose not to do that. Choose not to do that. And a very powerful way to choose not to do that, and I tell people to do this all the time. So if you've heard this before, forgive me, but really it's a very strong exercise. As you get closer to the birth, wherever you may be in your process of thinking about another birth, as you get closer, or even do it now, make a list of your fears because they have to be addressed. They can't be repressed because they'll still bubble up under the surface and come up when least expected or when least needed. So, you know what? Before I get into this, I'm just going to pause this because my lawnmower guys are here and it's going to get loud. So forgive me while I pause. No. I'm just going to keep going. It'll be too confusing. Sorry about the lawnmower people. But okay, so take your fears and write them all down. Write them all down on a piece of paper. The worst, ugliest things you can think of. The uglier, the better. Get it up. Purge it. You can keep this list and add to it as needed. Just keep your fear list and write it down. And then maybe not right away, but soon, write another list that has all the best case scenarios, all the things you really want, all the things that your babies says can happen. Best case scenarios. Those are your affirmations. And this is where your high priestess powerfulness can really come in. Because what you're doing is alchemy right now. You're taking the fears and you're turning them in to the greatest possible outcome. Um, and so when you're done with this, burn your fear list. Burn it. Let it go. Let it go. And with your belief list, read that frequently until it becomes integrated and ingrained in you. So you know that this is the possibility, the probability, the definite of what you can experience. So that's a very, very powerful way to alchemize your future birth experience. And I just want to say that there was, it's also an act of purification. So you're taking everything that was toxic and cleansing it. And I did pull some goddess cards, and it says bright future, bright future. So you can have whatever future you want, absolutely. And as I was pulling these cards too, it's funny, I kept pulling the soulmate, the romance, the marriage cards. So somehow this birth experience has also changed your partner. Of course, because it's something he also chose to experience. But as you're preparing for this next birth, I'm being told to tell you to really focus on your connection with your loved one. Keep the romance up. Raise the vibration of your relationship as much as you can by being playful, being loving, being honest with each other. Just focus on that, because the relationship also is a way to alchemize anything. It's a tool of manifestation. It's a cauldron. It's a very magical thing. So even when you're having sex, you should have sex when you're pregnant because it's awesome. If you let it, you really should have sex when you're pregnant. But sex can be a very strong manifestation tool. So after the act, when you're laying there, you know what? This is a great time for you guys to talk about your greatest dreams. Because in that energy of the love that you just created, you can create whatever you want. So it doesn't always have to be around birth and pregnancy. It can be about anything. But when you are pregnant and getting ready for birth, it's a very potent energy, because you as the mom are a part of creation with this. I mean, you're immersed into this other realm, so it's very, very strong. So I'm being guided to tell you to use sex as a manifestation tool for whatever you want, including a beautiful birth. But just know, since you're open to healing and you're open to having a different experience, then you will. You will. You just will. Your baby is telling me beautiful birth, beautiful birth, beautiful birth. And that is something, whatever form it takes, it can be beautiful. Can be beautiful. Just make up your mind. It's going to be beautiful, no matter what form it takes. If you want to go for a VBAC, it can be beautiful. If you want another cesarean, it can be beautiful. If you want a home birth, whatever, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Because when you're in the vibration of I am empowered and I got this, and my baby and I are going to have a beautiful experience, then the people that are in resonance with that will be drawn to you and even changed. So even if you were to have the same people, which I'm not telling you to do that. You don't have any more lessons to learn here, or any more healing. You don't have to prove anything. But I'm saying even if that were to happen, they would be changed, because you're changed and you're not going to have the same experience, because you don't need to. You don't need to do that anymore. And I'm just going to see if there's any final things. No, just the universe provides for you. All you need to do is ask, and ask your baby and talk to your baby. You can have whatever you want. You can have whatever you want, even if you can't feasibly imagine how. You can have whatever you want. And then there was also the miracles card that I pulled, and it's really pretty. You should see it. Miracles. So expect a miracle. Expect them in many ways. Expect them over and over again. And know, dear sister, that you are powerful, and your body is powerful, and this whole experience is powerful, and your spirit babies are powerful, and there was never anything wrong with you. In fact, there was just everything incredibly, beautifully divinely right about you. And again, I just want to give you thanks. And I love you. And I really want to hear of your next birth experience. So please, please share it with me. All right?